story of African Americans is a story of resilience and perseverance. It traces a people who refuse to accept the circumstances under which they arrive on these shores. And it chronicles the generations who fought for an America that truly reflects the ideas enshrined in our founding documents. It is a narrative of slaves who shepherded others along the path to freedom, and preachers who organized against the rules of Jim Crow, of young people who sat in at lunch counters, and ordinary men and women who took extraordinary risks to change our nation for the better. During National African American History Month, we celebrate the rich legacy of African Americans and to honor the remarkable contributions they have made to perfecting our union. This year's theme, Black Women in American Culture and History, invites us to pay special tribute to the role African American women have played in shaping the character of our nation.
From the American Revolution to the present, African American women have played a myriad of critical roles in the making of our nation. Their labor and leadership, their motherhood and patriotism, and their intellect and artistic expression have all enriched both the African American community and the nation at large. In slavery and freedom, their struggles have been at the heart of the human experience, and their triumphs over racism and sexism are a testimonial to our common human spirit. In American culture today, many know of the accomplishments of a few prominent figures, from Phyllis Wheatley, the unlikely American patriot during the Revolutionary War, to Harriet Tubman, the leader of the Underground Railroad from slavery, to Ida B. Wells, the unyielding opponent of lynching, to Rosa Parks, the mother of the modern civil rights movement. Black women have been notable for standing against oppression. From Gwendolyn Brooks to Toni Morrison to Rita Dove, they have distinguished themselves in American letters, and in recent years they have been recognized as actors and recording artists with Academy Awards and Grammys. The accomplishments of these exceptional women are the expressions of a vibrant culture in which African American women play a singular role. The labors, struggles, organization, and sacrifices of common women have made possible the prominence of heralded individuals. In churches, community groups, literary societies, sororities, and advocacy organizations, African American women have been the core of organized Black life. But here their strivings have often escaped the gaze of the public, and hence their history is too little known. Their story is unique in the annals of American history. Black women were held as slaves, and middle-class Black women labored while their counterparts were housewives. Subjected to a long history of stereotypes about their sexuality, morality, spirituality, and intellect, African American women have never succumbed to victimhood and have pressed forward to uplift themselves, their families, and their community. To gain an understanding of the history of African American women is to broaden our understanding of a people in the American nation. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History dedicates the 2012 annual Black History theme to exploring African American women's contributions to the making of America.
When I think of this year's Black History Month theme, Black Women in American History and Culture, and I posed the question to myself, which woman has been most influential to me? I consider women that are known in the history books or on a national level, such as Mahalia Jackson, Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey. But when I think about the women who have made the most impact on my life, I think of my first African American teacher, Mrs. Sandra Fodrell, Mrs. Celestine Braxton, Mrs. Lillian Porter. All these ladies have made a great impact on my life. But the woman who has made the most impact is my mother, Mrs. Lucy Cole, a woman of deep Christian conviction, someone who taught me the value of living a Christian life, the value of having great character, integrity, and a strong work ethic. She not only impacted me, but she impacted everyone that was in the neighborhood. And I believe if she was here today, they would say thank you, as do I.
my mother will always be top of the list. When I think about it, my 6th grade school teacher, Miss Norma Davis Hopkins, I wrote a poem concerning my mother. She was killed in August of last year, but I simply titled this Mom. Mom had an 8th grade education. Back then, for a Negro girl, was an achievement in itself. I don't remember Mom ever saying what she wanted me to be when I grew up, as long as I was a good person, which I haven't grown up yet. I do remember Mom being proud of my military service. I do remember Mom instilling manners in me. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. And that children should be seen, not heard. I do remember if a teacher had anything negative to report about me, I would be sore for a week. I do remember bologna sandwiches. I do remember peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I do remember sugar water. I do remember duct tape on my shoes so I would not miss school. I do remember the joy on her face from me getting a good report card. I do remember as an adult calling Mom to let her know I was playing in the rain and she could not make me come in the house like she used to when I was a child. I do remember being loved regardless of myself. I remember.
I would definitely say my mom has had a major impact in my life and many others. She's gone from being a single mother to the pastor of her own church. She's been very active in her community. She's gone from giving the invocation for Joe Biden when he was running for vice president to helping out with the DC jails and the Loudoun County jails and the Loudoun County hospitals. She's very active in her community and she gives back every day. She's an inspiration to me and to many others.
I can tell you that in my career there's been several women that have tremendous influence on my background and my experience, and one of which that comes to my mind is Margaret Sellers Walker. Now, Margaret Sellers Walker was a woman hired to be a human resource director, and she was a peer of mine, and we worked very well collaboratively on projects. And then the opportunity came for Margaret to be promoted to a assistant city manager, so she then became my boss. And I learned by working with Margaret the strength of her character, the wisdom of her knowledge, and just her practical sense that she gave me so many times lessons in life that I couldn't get in school. Something I learned from Margaret that I'll always remember her and always be very respectful and very thankful for that opportunity to work with Margaret and to learn from her.
By me watching her and what she did because she was a single parent, just by watching her and what she did to, provide for the family, that inspired me to do more and, and admire her. So my mother is my inspiration.
The first person that comes to mind is a math teacher I had back in elementary school in 7th grade. Her name was Miss Samuels. And during that time in my life, I was a very shy person. But I think Miss Samuels saw potential in me because she would constantly call on me in class. She would call me to the blackboard where I was extremely shy, and she would force me to speak up in class. And I think that was the beginning of me learning that I have an opinion and I have a brain, and she taught me how to think on my feet, and I'll always remember that.
As I thought of some of the prominent African American women who have made a difference in our society, the one that came to my mind is Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was the first African American woman elected to the Texas House after Reconstruction. She's one of the first African American women in Congress. She was prominent in the Voting Rights Act and various other legislation. She was also disabled, which never seemed to make a difference in what she was able to do for the country. Barbara Jordan gave the keynote speech at the 1976 Democratic Convention, and it is called, still today, one of the best speeches of the 20th century. So why do I pick Barbara Jordan? Well, when I was 20 years old, which, okay, it's a long time ago, when I was 20 years old, I was working an internship in Washington and had the opportunity to work on a project with Ms. Jordan. She was very outgoing, very knowledgeable. You just loved to sit and listen to her and her life experiences. She was kind to a 20-year-old intern, and I don't think I'll ever forget that. So Barbara Jordan is one of the women I think about in the theme of this year's Black History Month, but I just have to say, every day working here in Prince William, I work with amazing African American men and women who make a difference in this organization. And one of the greatest things about Prince William and what we do every day is our diversity and all the experiences we bring together.
Over the years, I watched as Prince William County hired men and women who immigrated here from many lands, Iran, Africa, India, South America, Central America, to name a few. Diversity is the one true thing we all have in common, celebrated every day. Happy Black History Month to my colleagues in PwC.
When I think of Black women in American culture and history, I think back to Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. We think of women like Shirley Chisholm and Mae Jemison, and even today with the greats of Oprah Winfrey, who owns her own network. You can't help but be proud of the many accomplishments that African American women have made, many contributions to history, and many more to make. I'm proud of being an African American woman, and I think it's wonderful that we celebrate women in history.